In this exercise, we're going to demonstrate how to create a checkbook in Excel to use it to balance the registry. Now, often in a checkbook, the check writer would need to account for the actual check number, so we're going to create a series for that. We'll choose some number like, let's see, 91,321. Okay, 91,322. Oh, that's going to get tedious. So let's select those two cells and create a series, and that'll create our check numbers. That should be good enough. Okay. Oh, that worked. So we'll put that up here, check number. We'll label that. The next cell, by the way, I used the tab to move over. The next cell is going to be the description. We need to know what we've written our checks for so we can know where our money went. And then, of course, the amount of the check and the balance. So, but we need to know a previous balance. So I'm going to label this over here. Previous balance, and in this cell, we're just going to put the previous balance, and we'll give ourselves 1,000 to work with. Nice round number. Okay, and as always, in working with these videos, if you need to, press pause, back up the video, and go again. Now, I'm not going to make this into format into currency because we're working with numbers. We know it's dollars. So, usually when I use formulas, I recommend my students use nice round numbers so they can tell when something's working. Check their formula. So we know that a nice round number would turn out well. I'm going to add some numbers in here. Let's see, latte 1375. And you don't have to put the same numbers, although I can recommend that you do that. And no, I'm not going to make you watch me type them all. If you happen to type in the same numbers, then your balance and my balance should be the same. So go ahead and type these numbers in. And we'll continue. This ought to be enough. And we'll end with, that ought to do it. Okay, so I have some values in here. And looks like I missed one. Oh, that was a voided check. There we go. So we're going to create a formula in here to reflect what we want to have done. And I often recommend that students think of, or you think of, a story to tell as you design these formulas. We want this cell to have a value that's equal to the previous balance less whatever we might have written the check for. So the cell above minus the cell beside. And I'll press enter. And if I move my cursor out of the way, we can see that that math actually checks out. If I copy the series down, I can see that I'm out of money. It's a good idea I did this. Now, no more checks for me. So that could be a problem, running out of money. So that's not how a checking account often works. We also get deposits, and we have no room for that. Now, I could put a negative 1,000 here to give myself another deposit of 1,000, but that is actually an awkward way of doing things. So we're just going to leave that as a 0, and we're going to insert a new column to solve this. So select the column heading of where amount is, right click and do an insert. We want it to insert on the left, and it did. Notice when it inserted, it took on or copied the format or the width of the cell to the left. Yeah. So we're going to call this deposit. We could call it debits and credits, but we're not going to get into that much accounting. So in here, in a deposit for any given date, and now we'll add that column. If I right click this and click insert, I can label this date. And if there's a particular day that had a deposit, we'll use that 0 one. Seems like a good one. We can put the date there and the amount here, and we now have a deposit, except my balance is still 0. Well, we need to incorporate this column into our formula, and that's not too hard to do. Let's go back to our original formula. Here we can see it in the formula bar. Remember, if we double click it, we can see that formula and continue with our story. And our story is, if we take the previous balance and subtract the amount that we've written the check for to the left. We can also add, so I'll do plus, and I'll click on this cell. Now notice I clicked on this cell and not the cell down here where my deposit is. I want the cell to be in the same row. I'll press enter. My value or my result is the same until I come across a cell that has more. And so that's added to my checking account, and I now have an ending balance. I can add other deposits as they come in, and if I make a mistake in one of my checks and I discover that mistake, I can go back. Instead of $230, it was $23. Instead of typing the whole thing over again in the calculator on our screen, or worse yet, paper and pencil, and having to redo the whole column, I can simply correct that number and my balance will reflect that correction. One of the powers of Excel. Well, those of you that are in my class, name this checkbook. And again, thank you for listening.